This video idea began as a top 5, it then grew into a top 10, and then a top 15. And then I just said, you know what? Screw it, we're rounding up to 20, splitting it in half, and having a field day. Internet, my name is Peridiam, and welcome to the top 20 best losing Final Tribal Council performances in Survivor. While it can be said that all of these losing finalists did something wrong to end up in this video, on the flip side, they also did something right. Yeah, they lost, but there's a lot of good here. So let's acknowledge that in spite of the end result. Perhaps in another season, in another year, these performances could have netted them the win. They just didn't this time. At the bottom of my list, at number 20, from one of the oldest seasons, we have Kim Johnson from Season 3 Survivor Africa. Now in the video where I ranked the worst performances by Survivor winners, I ranked Kim's adversary Ethan in that top 5. But Kim is only at number 20 for me in the best losing performances because while she does a competent job answering every question and really never fumbles a question, she also doesn't sell her story all that much. And she kinda needed to. I do like that she dogpiles on Big Tom every negative answer went his way, and hey, I don't think that's a bad idea if you know you're not gonna get his vote anyway. She cut her losses. She wins over Brandon, especially after Ethan's answer to Brandon's question, and she does a good job at listing the 5 traits a Survivor player needs to win when she's talking to Frank. She apologizes to Kelly, who wanted to hear that, and she even gets Kim P's vote, as Little Kim said she was impressed with Big Kim's performance. If nothing else, having a juror say that alone is worth a spot on this list, even if it's at the bottom.
You may not forget, but you were a forgiver, and I think that's huge. So, I mean, I learned an amazing amount from you.
I have to say that I came in here tonight thinking that I would be voting for Ethan. Kim, you impressed me so much. You're 56 years old and you are a really strong woman, and for whatever reason, I think you deserve to win.
At number 19, I have a fun one of my personal favorites, and all I have to ask you is this. Did you win an immunity? Well, did you, Jean Robert? Yup, I'm talking about Courtney from Season 15 China, when she puts up a good fight against one of the best performances ever in Todd, yet still manages to snag a few votes in spite of Todd's stellar finish. I love her intro. She talks about having the lowest odds of almost anyone in Survivor to win, yet here she is. She impresses Jean Robert with her answer to his question, as well as explaining to Frosty why she had to blindside him. I didn't see any of this coming from Courtney going into this final tribal, so maybe the bar was low, but either way, I'm very impressed here. She doesn't have the best answer for Jamie's question, kind of talks like her question wasn't really particularly good. But either way, Courtney really fights for her win, and given she didn't know much about the game or even care for a portion of it, here she was, arguing for the crown and almost getting it.
Did you win an immunity? I came from the worst odds. I was never the favorite in this game.
I'll give you
There
that.
you go.
Thanks, that's a good answer.
Whether or not you like me personally, you have to give a little bit of credit to the little girl who everyone thought would be gone in the first 6 days and is still sitting here on day 39.
At number 18, I have Jacqueline from Season 29 San Juan del Sur, where she manages to get 2 votes next to Natalie and Missy, albeit one of those votes is from her boyfriend John, and the other was a petty vote against Missy, but still. Jacqueline's performance is steady Eddie. It's very sound. She relates her journey in the game to having MRKH syndrome and the complications of that in real life. She repeatedly argues the notion that her and John were a tag team duo who worked together. And in fact, it was her idea and her move to blindside Josh at the merge. One of the biggest moves of the season. Jacqueline is a bit soft-spoken, but she's clear. She doesn't trip over her words. She doesn't get ugly or personal. She puts up a good fight, but she was also up against a player who put up one of the most impressive endgame runs in Survivor history. No matter what you say, a lot of people are gonna have trouble going against that.
Can you just give us just like one move that was solely your move and not involving anyone else, that it was your idea?
Voting you out. When I was 15, I was diagnosed with MRKH syndrome, which means I was born without half my reproductive organs. Turned a negative into a positive and just triumphed from it. And I feel like I did that in this game too. That's why I want to be the sole survivor.
At number 17, I have a player who is arguably one of the best to never win, maybe the best, and that is Dominic from Season 36, Ghost Island. Even though it could be argued Dom may have actually lost the game here or lost a few votes, I want to say I like Dom's final tribal performance enough to put it in my top 20, but not enough to go much higher, if only because he does kind of lose points for me for the same reasons he doesn't win over half the jury. Dom is fast talking and forthright forthright. He strongly owns his game, more than almost any other losing finalist. But he also rubs a lot of the jury the wrong way because of that. He's great at explaining the moves he made and why they were effective, but he also needed to just pump the brakes. He burned really hot. He spends a lot of the final tribal trying to frame his game in a positive light in spite of the negative emotions many jurors had. And I feel like his words made sense. I personally liked them, but it wasn't as effective to the jurors. At the same time, he did get half of them and then lost by the hands of one player he wasn't even pitching to in the first place. So I'm not gonna dock him too much. He's still in my top 20.
He had an idol and I had an idol. So we just accepted the fact that, look, let's just work together to the end. But I will say, if I had a shot at him at Final Five, I would have rallied the troops to get his ass out of here.
For me personally, Dom, you and I have been at it since day one, but there's still a mutual respect that I have because you did play your ass off. You played the game hard.
And number 16 from Survivor 42, I have Romeo, the guy who got 0 votes and was a bit irrelevant for a lot of the post-merge. Romeo's performance is actually quite good if you rewatch the finale. He has a great back and forth with Hai where he owns up to his hinky votes. He's very honest about what he brought into the game. Nobody on the jury dislikes his answers. He makes a compelling case for his constant self-preservation. He created a fake idol, diverted attention from himself as best he could. He gets sad about his family back home, and then also how he had to make the best with the position that he found himself in at the merge, where he was discarded by his #1 ally and had to play from the bottom. All in all, it's a pretty emotional performance that comes out of left field, and I didn't really find a lot wrong with it. His answers weren't enough to get a vote, but I still liked everything he said.
And the first thing was create a fake immunity idol. Whether it worked or didn't, that was just to get people's attention away from me. I had to make as many alliances as I could, and hopefully that would push me through, and that did. You were so good that you replaced me, and I'm sorry.
Thank you for owning that. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
You admitting that me getting close to Drea made you threatened, I respect that. So thank you for being truthful.
At number 15, I may throw some for a loop, but I have Dawn. From season 26, Karamoan, Fans versus Favorites 2. If you rewatch this tribal, paying special attention to Dawn's answers, you will notice that Dawn really doesn't back down from owning her game. She's very honest about her flaws, but likewise touches upon her strategy, the relationships she formed and how she leveraged them. How she had more blood on her hands than Cochran because of that. Because she was the go-between with the information, she was a huge asset to both her and Cochran being in the final 3. And Cochran validates her, although he also has his own perspective to share too. She kind of tries to spin her emotional breakdowns as not taking away from her being a strong person, just that the game was taking a toll on her at times. And this may sound a little bit strange, but I want to give her credit for taking her teeth out to Brenda and proving that she can almost literally put the money where her mouth is. As in, she was willing to go that far to prove her point in front of national television, knowing it was going to get aired. That's the kind of fight in a final tribal performance I like to see. And she didn't even get Brenda's vote.
I feel proud of the game I played because I know that I made the hard decisions when I had to, and that got us both to where we are today. I don't think he had as much responsibility, and I don't think he would necessarily be here if I hadn't developed the relationships. In my opinion, there are a lot of decisions in the game where Cochran didn't have to do anything but kind of show up and say, how do I vote? I kicked your ass in this game, but I still do love you.
I liked it. A little bit.
A little bit.
With number 14, I have the finalist from season 25, Philippines. It's Lisa Welchel. You didn't think I was gonna say Scoopin', did you? As far as I'm concerned, it's a fact of life that Lisa is on everyone's top 20 list, and debatably could be higher than this. I like Lisa's strategy with her performance. Her intro sets up the start of her journey, how she didn't really get how to play the game until later on. She was running fast, falling fast, getting up, rinsing, and repeating. But by the end of the season, she got it, and Malcolm tells her that her performance in this tribal was exactly what he wanted to hear. She's very self-effacing, very earnest. Kind of like Dawn, she acknowledges her downsides, but tells us that she's ending it on a high note. She's also stern with Jeff Kent about not floating. She was active throughout the game. She made decisions. And then she ends with a retort to Penner, who tells the rest of the jury that she was a former child star. Yeah, Penner, she was a child star 25 years ago. So what? How about we talk about the last 39 days?
Did you reveal to any of us what you did as a teenager, what job you had as a teenager like 25 years ago? Or did you talk more about who you are now, what you've been doing, and what you bring to the game now.
Lisa came out and gave her opening speech. She was swinging for the fences. I didn't think she had it in her, but it was exactly what I wanted to hear from her. And for the first time, I really considered writing your name down tonight.
At number 13, I have DK Chillin', Dean, from season 39, Island of the Idols. And oh boy, I got a lot to say about Dean. I mostly have him this high because he articulates his overall strategy pretty well. The jury understood his game plan and it correlated with what they saw. He got to know everyone and also wasn't working with everyone, and he admitted that. It allowed him to be more honest at the expense of having less opportunities with everyone strategically. He didn't have to get so much blood on his hands because of it. Dean has a lightness to his demeanor. He's got a strong golden retriever energy. Positive, doesn't want to be a downer. And I think the worst part about his performance is his conversation with Kelly about where he draws the line with his morals. He didn't really think about that. Kelly was a bit miffed. Who was Dean as a human being? But then you follow that up with one of the most modern era Survivor conversations where he basically runs down a checklist of every advantage, idol, and immunity that he won. And let me tell you, it is longer than a receipt at Trader Joe's the day before Thanksgiving. Dean's showmanship is off the charts for finalists. He gets into a lot of playful banter. The jury clearly likes him. There's a lot of smiles, jokes, good vibes, and he caps it off by outlining his journey. I don't think he had a strong cohesive argument that could counter Tommy's, which is kind of why he lost, but overall, he puts up a good fight.
Sitting at 5, blinged out. Necklace on, idol nullifier, legacy advantage, hidden immunity idol. Did I have to play any of them? No.
Wow.
Part of the reason why he's sitting here too is because I had 2 of those 3 necklaces.
Yeah, Dean did save you, Tommy.
I was sitting there smiling because I knew I was going to him because I had him so lined up with me to bring me there. So I'm asking you guys to help write history with me.
At number 12, I have a well-regarded losing finalist who I was a bit shocked at the time didn't win, and that is Parvati from season 20, Heroes vs. Villains. Parvati leads this tribal council by talking about her level of control over the game. Like a Targaryen, Russell was her dragon, and she controlled him. As she puts it, in every aspect, she played the ultimate triple threat game. Colby questions her, and she remarks on just how much she was up against coming into this season. This was not a walk in the park. She emphasizes to JT that she felt the heat from day one, but she gave the season her all, 110% in the challenges. And then she was honest when she talked with Jerry, who got a smile from the original Black Widow. Jerry started out this season against Parv, but wound up respecting her by the end. Even Rupert gives Parv some flack, but again, she reiterates she had 7 people against her from day one. She had a whole other tribe making up stuff against her without even talking to them. As she says, Rupert, she had no choice but to align with Russell. Even though Rupert didn't like that, he understood, and again, respected her for it. I like Parvati's argument. I like her demeanor. She handles a jury that wasn't interested in voting for her from the jump rather well. And for that, I have her at number 12.
I came into this game knowing I was gonna play with 20 of the best survivors ever. What I didn't realize was the threat that I was to everyone in this game. You know, I think I played the ultimate social game, the ultimate strategic game, and the ultimate physical game.
You were a very, very strong player. But I want to say you, as well as Sandra, deserve the vote because you worked to get here. I went up against you in those challenges. You fought to be sitting right there, and you deserve to be in the final 3.
Thank you.
Last but not least for this video, at number 11, I have, from season 38, Edge of Extinction, I have Gavin. Where did Gavin come from? I was pretty smitten by Gavin's argument, and I'm a bit shocked after this performance, he only managed 4 votes. He consistently reiterates how he had to survive 39 days in the actual game. He didn't let anyone dictate the game for him, he wasn't a goat, his social bonds kept him secure enough to where he didn't need idols or advantages. Kinda sounds like the winner after his season, huh? Both Aubrey and Kelly praise him for his openness and flexibility in the game. Gavin also gets emotional about his fiance and ends on a good note. But ultimately, I like his argument to counter a lot of what Chris says. Yeah, Chris is a salesman. This is what Chris does for a living. Chris was given an idol by the producers at the final 6. Chris was given weeks to hang out with the jury. Gavin could only dream, heck, any Survivor player could only dream about getting the opportunity to right their wrongs with all of the jurors they voted out. He emphasized all of this and the disadvantage of not being voted out. How backwards. And when Chris tries to remind the jury of classic Survivor to get the jury to think less about the gameplay and more about the relationships, Gavin is like, what? Classic Survivor? Okay, if this were Classic Survivor, you wouldn't even be here. Anyway, I will say I do think Gavin needed like a Red Bull to give his performance just a little more punch, give it some wings. But overall, I've got it pretty high.
There's the whole other Survivor aspect. I mean, my social game was my strategic game, building bonds and having people's trust and getting them to trust me so they could come to me with information. I'm not anyone's goat. I chose the route that I chose. No one dictated that for me, so.
Gavin was one of the only people to come up to me and even pretend that he was willing to work with me. I just want to say
I was
that.
willing to work with you. If you want to talk about Classic Survivor, then it's surviving 39 days. It's not getting voted out on day 8 and then coming back on day 35 and having a chance to win this game.
And that's it. Those are the first half of my top 20 best losing Final Tribal Council performances in Survivor. But don't worry, the second half is right around the corner, and we have got some compelling arguments to consider. Let me know, who do you think is in the top 10, what you think about these top 10, and who you might have in your list. A big thank you to my patrons for all your support, for giving me your vote despite all of my terrible arguments here. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to not forget your argument as you pitch your case to the jury, and I will see you in the next one. Oh God. Yup, there it goes. I just lost my train of thought.
I'm so nervous. This is like so crazy. I'm just so nervous.
I would say,
You could have gone to get the water. You could have gone to get the...
Sat around and talked about iced coffee.
You literally hardly ever went for water.